Hi, and welcome to Candid Low Code. Candid Low Code is a new vidcast series we're doing here at Mendix to talk about the things that our customers and employees want to talk about right now. My name is John Scalamero. I'm the manager of architecture and governance here at Mendix, and I'm joined by Russell Hite, who is a senior UX designer. And today we're actually going to be talking about customer engagement and customer experience. So, hi, Russ. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing, John?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. All right, so let's talk about customer engagement and customer experience. You have a lot of experience working through that with users and our customers. And what are some things that you would say are important when it comes to customer experience?
I think the number one thing is making sure you're doing like a project kickoff and getting everyone aligned. I think that's a huge thing that we do with expert services that really helps make sure that customer engagement, which is your end goal to
Mhm.
your creation of your product, happens the way you want it to. Because sometimes you, as a product owner, and your stakeholders may have different opinions on what it is you're building and what value you're bringing.
So, who is really important to have in that meeting when you're having a project kickoff? Like, who would you invite and who would you make sure is there?
We always make sure that there's a product owner. That's like a non-starter. We've definitely had instances where product owner couldn't make it, and we're like, oh, we'll just do a sub in. We reschedule it because it's just not. We need someone to own that the business side of it. We always have technical sides to it. You know, if the developers are there, we make sure they're included. But something that sometimes glossed over at some level is like who the application serves.
Okay.
So that would be end users, stakeholders of some form, end users preferably. But yeah, I would definitely make sure you're including the people that know the business processes and like live with them on a day to day. Those people are critical to really understanding what the business process the application is supporting.
So let's dig into that a little bit. I know it sounds like an obvious answer, but why is it important, in your opinion, to have the actual user of a solution in the kickoff?
So yeah, as I mentioned before, sometimes there's this, stakeholders. Maybe the stakeholder is a manager of the group
Mhm.
that will be actually doing using this application. As a manager, your roles are different than what the person following that application doing the inputs for. You may be older, younger, different demographic than the person using the application. So who's using it is going to have a real big impact on how that should be designed, what their technical skill level is. But I always try to make sure the thought of not just who's currently using this application, but could the user group change? Could they hire new people? So you're not just taking into account like the singular person that's using it because that's who you have access to, but interviewing multiple people, maybe to create a persona.
Mhm.
Sometimes we do that, and that's also helpful. Although sometimes that can be more useful from a center of excellence perspective. But when you're starting with one application, having the person that is actually using it, then you can ask questions about what their actual pain points are. I think that's super helpful.
So orienting it around and driving the experience that user has around what they're actually trying to do, rather than the broader initiative, right? So the broader initiative might be to improve performance of warehouse maintenance or something like that.
hmm
But if you don't actually orient the experience around the people who are actually maintaining the warehouse or scanning goods or something like that, then it's not going to be as effective, right?
Right. I mean, I always strive from a as a UX perspective to make their application experience as enjoyable as possible. I mean, it seems like maybe almost frivolous thing to say for, well, I'm doing an operations efficiency app. Why does the app need to look good? Why does
Mhm.
that matter? Because it's proven that if an app looks nice, we're more likely to spend more time with it and give it more grace than if it just looks like really kind of thrown together and clunky. We're going to get frustrated. And even if it is an application you have to use because it's key to your business, that doesn't seal anything off from end users being like, no, I hate this. I'm not going to use this. We need something else and start looking elsewhere. And that's just not what we want. That whole going through and looking for something new, that takes time and money out of your kind of is the exact opposite of that operations efficiency there.
Yeah, yeah. So like basically if people don't want to use it, they won't use it. And if they don't use it, or they'll use it as infrequently as possible, and that just defeats the purpose, right? So
Right.
that actually brings up a good thing. So you do a lot of design workshops, you do a lot of obviously user experience work. When it comes to customer engagement or customer experience, what is something that you don't that doesn't work? What is something that like you try to avoid or you want people to think about?
I mean, I think when we look at applications that are like legacy migrations, its real challenge is trying to have them release what works. Some customers are like, we know this is awful. We want something new. But then there's plenty of customers that are like, this works. It's just technologically is not scaling. So I think when you're doing a legacy migration, see it as an opportunity to innovate. Even though the goal is just to upgrade to a new technology stack, you actually have an opportunity there to actually see if it's working for all your users. I think there's a fine line between doing feedback and do user experience testing. And so the difference there is when you're giving a demo, say you're working on a project, you're going through your sprints, and you're not really testing out the experience because you're like, this is exactly how you do this thing, as opposed to putting it blindly in front of someone and being like, go achieve, objective X and watch it and seeing what
So
they do and seeing how it works and how it doesn't work.
So it'd be safe to say that basically people should be avoiding doing something just because it seems to work for them. Just because they've learned that it works for them doesn't mean that just because it works doesn't mean that it's the best way to do it or it's the most efficient way to do it or it's even the wisest way to do it.
Yeah,
Now that you're trying to, either do a legacy replacement or create a new process, just because it works in your mind doesn't mean that it's the most efficient thing to do.
yeah, I think it's a delicate balance as a UX designer is to bridge that gap between people who are like, well, this works for us, this works for our users, and
Yeah.
it may work because they've learned it. That doesn't mean it's the most intuitive. And it really depends on when people say, I want this to be intuitive. There's a huge assumption that's being made with that. It's like that's assuming you know who your users are and what they need to do and what their pain points are and what would make their lives better. You can achieve that with this application, but you have to ask those hard questions. And I think it's definitely a challenge for I think anyone to say you do not know your business process, you do not know your users, or put yourself in that position of uncertainty.
I was just gonna say, isn't that the point of like that's part of design thinking and a jobs to be done approach, right? Is instead of assuming, soliciting, and then designing processes around what people are trying to do.
Yeah, I mean that design thinking is in essence what we strive to do is empathize with end users. So if we don't have the end users present, it's really hard to do that, and so we have to make assumptions.
I love that. Like empathize with the end user. That's great. Sorry, I
Yeah,
just
no,
love
yeah,
that.
no, it's a great thing, and I think you can come up with some really cool solutions from it. And so I think that's the other thing. I think generally speaking, we're coached. I mean, this is like from a professional perspective, we're taught to come with a solution, come with an idea. Don't just come with a problem. Like, however, I think something we jump to a solution too quickly because we've like already diagnosed what the problem is, when in fact we may not have found what the problem is. We just assumed what the problem was. So that's part of design thinking too, is really finding out, actually brainstorming what the problem is. And then you might actually find a solution that covers more than one.
Maybe less coming with a solution, maybe just come with a path that will get us to a solution because it's going to be different, even the same problem will be different in two different specific scenarios. Even if it's for the same customer, you could have two different warehouses or two different groups of people who need something slightly different. Not that that has to be expensive or take a lot of time, but it just gives you two slightly different approaches to solve the real problem and to even understand what the real problems are. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions on where you'd like us to go next or videos you'd like to see next, please put them below in the comments. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. If you'd like more Candid low-code content, please go to video.mendix.com or our YouTube channel. If you have ideas for new Candid low-code videos, please let us know in the comments below.